Hello guys. So we are going to continue the discussion with respect to our LangGraph crash course. Already I have said that we are going to cover this into multiple parts, and specifically I had written about part 1, part 2 and part 3. In the part 1, we discussed about the entire LangGraph fundamentals where when we understood how to build a basic chatbot, tools, multiple tools, adding memory, add human in the loop, streaming techniques, and we also discussed about MCP. So all these specific topics have been completed. Now we are moving into the part 2, and this part 2 I am basically categorizing in the advanced lag graph section. And before I start making you understand about workflows and agents, multi-agents and functional API, I really want to take this specific topic, that is nothing but debug and monitoring, because this is one of the more core fundamental topics that you should really understand. And with the help of this, trust me, uh, if you specifically add related to debugging and monitoring in your resume, that will definitely impress the interviewer. So when I talk about debug and monitoring, whenever you develop a generative AI application or an agentic application, right, or an agentic AI application, this debugging and monitoring is must. Okay, debugging and monitoring is must. And as I said, that if you know the LangChain ecosystem, specifically since we're discussing about LangChain and LangGraph, we are going to use LangSmith for the debug and monitoring. And along with this, we will also show how you can use LangGraph Studio, right, to execute any kind of flows. And these two topics will be important for everyone to understand, and how you can specifically work with LangSmith and LangGraph Studio. Both of this will be in the LangChain cloud itself. Okay, in the LangChain cloud. So here it will give you an idea like how to use this specific cloud platform, and how you can debug and monitoring the entire graph and workflow with respect to which LLM model you are specifically using, how it is probably taking the input, providing you the response. And when we talk about LangGraph Studio, right, the entire graph execution, the pattern of the graph execution, you can easily see it. Okay, so this is the agenda. I really want to talk about debug and monitoring, and obviously in my next part I will also talk about LLM evaluation metrics, and then one part will be only discussing about this workflow and multi-agents. So right now we're going to focus on this specific thing. Okay, debug and monitoring, how you can basically do it in LangGraph. So let's go ahead. So as I said, I will just go ahead and minimize this. This was my code, if you remember, right? In the last class, we already have created this. For first of all, what I will do, I will just go ahead and write LangSmith. Okay. So as you know, we are going to use this LangSmith platform for the debug and monitoring. Why I'm using this? Because see, if you know about the if you just go ahead and talk about LangChain, right? So let's say if we are going over a LangChain. In the LangChain, in the first page, you can see the entire ecosystem. And in this particular ecosystem, you will be able to see, you know about LangChain, you know about LangGraph, because completely we spoke about LangGraph in our previous class. We also spoke about different integrations from MCP to normal tools integration, everything we spoke about. And this is what LangSmith is all about. Here you can do the debug. Here you can probably use the playground, prompt management, annotation, testing, and monitoring. So we are going to focus on all this specific task. Okay. And step by step, we will try to see it. Now, first of all, if I really want to use the LangSmith, you need to have the LangSmith API key. So what I will do, I will just go ahead and write LangSmith API key. Okay. And we will just go ahead and create a LangSmith API key. So I will just go over here, and we will go ahead and click on sign up. Once we click on sign up, here you can go ahead and continue with Google, right? You'll be seeing why this API key will be amazing, right? And I have been using this platform for a longer period of time, and it's quite amazing to see what all things it can basically do. Okay, so I will just go over here and I'll click on tracing projects. Okay, just to give you an idea what all things are there. Let's see in the settings, do I have a different theme? So I will make it as a dark theme. Okay, so I'll click on back. Now see, in the tracing projects, you'll be able to see that I have created so many different kind of projects. Let's say here you have this course LangGraph, right? If you just go ahead and see this, here you'll be able to see that what kind of traces it is actually able to pick up, right? So this kind of traces like how your entire applications will be specifically working. Right now I got an error because there was an authentication error. Why this authentication error have actually come, right? This kind of debugging, you'll be able to do it in a very easy way. Monitoring, the entire monitoring part will be able to do it in a very easy way. So here you have monitoring also. See, you can probably go ahead and create a variable dashboard. You can create anything. So let's say if I just go ahead and click on this LangGraph projects, right here, you'll be able to get all the charts based on the days. Let's say, I think this is from a longer period of time. So let's say if I go ahead and just hit on last 14 days and see that whether any kind of tracks is there, right? There is nothing, right? So what I will do, I'll again go back to my monitoring, and I've used this long back, and right now it is just showing for 7 days. But let's say I will go over here and let's see whether I can probably just provide some kind of metadata. So let's say last 30 days, at least we should be able to see something. That basically means I've not used anything in this last 30 days. Let's say I will just go ahead and apply some filters over here, right? So let's apply some filters. Let's say I will go ahead and write first, at least from first start date, I will apply invalid end date. End date is where, let's see, this is my start date, time, end date. We will just go ahead and write 2025. Month, I will say 03, and this will be 31st March, right? I'll just go ahead and apply this. Let's see whether there is anything or not. So here you can see one of the requests was there. Here you can see that I have probably used at that point of time when I was just trying it out, right? So this is a very good dashboard that is probably got created for you. And along with this, you can trace each and every request that is happening, right? Just to show you, in my company also, I specifically use a different dashboard. I have a paid account of LangGraph Cloud project, so that I use it for my products that I'm specifically building related to AI. But anyhow, I will be showing you each and everything as we go ahead. Now, first of all, in the LangSmith, you need to go ahead and create your API key in order to start using. So I'll go ahead and click on settings. So here you can see so many different API keys are there. I will go ahead and create the API key. I will write, okay, this is my LangGraph crash course. Okay. Crash course, and I will just go ahead and create the API key. Okay, I will use this API key, and again, let me tell you guys, this it gives you free access of 500,000 requests in the LangSmith, so you don't have to probably just go ahead and copy my API key. You can go ahead and create your own, right? Because money will not it will not charge you anything. So here I will go in my .env file. I will go ahead and create a key over here because I'm going to use this key, and the key name will be nothing but langchain underscore API underscore key, right? So this will basically be my key name, and I will paste it over here. Okay, because the reason is very simple, because I'm going to use this particular key for tracking my entire application in short, right? And you will be seeing that how we will be going ahead and tracking each and everything with respect to the keys that we are using over here, right? So now let's go ahead and probably take a specific example, and then we will try to debug and monitor with the help of LangSmith. Okay, so here I will create my third folder, and this folder will be all about debugging. Okay, debugging. I will create this particular folder, rename to debugging. Okay, and then I will go ahead and create some files over here, right? So the first file is simply debugging.ipynb. Okay, here I will go ahead and select the kernel, and then I will start working on my code. So let's say 1+1. Now here what we are planning to do is that I will create a simple state graph with respect to a specific task, wherein I make a tool call, and then based on that we will go ahead and track it everything in the LangSmith. Okay, so first of all, what I will actually do is that I will import some of the libraries that I require. Okay, and these libraries are commonly used. Okay, even in my previous tutorials I have actually spoken about it. Okay, so here I will remove this LangChain OpenAI because I don't require it, because at the end of the day we are just going to go ahead and use our normal Grok API, right? So here you can see from typing, let me close this and let me open it once again. Okay, so here you go. So I will just go ahead and execute it. So from typing, import annotated, I'm using type deck, end start, state graph, add messages, which is my reducer, tool node, tool, base message, OS, and load underscore .env. Now what we are basically going to do is that quickly I'll go ahead and initialize my load underscore .env. okay, .env, and I will go ahead and execute it. The reason is very simple why we are using this, so that we can load our environment variable. Now, the next step is that I will just go ahead and write os.environ, and here we are going to go ahead and use our grok underscore API underscore key, and here we are basically going to go ahead and write os dot get env, and here we are going to go ahead and write grok underscore API underscore key. Okay. So once we do this, the next key that I am really interested in is my LangSmith API key. So I will go ahead and write os dot environ. Now see guys, here you can also see that I'm not getting any suggestion. The reason is very simple. What I will do, I will just go to this particular folder, okay, and sometime, uh, whenever you keep your dashboard open, or whenever you keep your VS Code open for a longer period of time, and then when you create a new folder, it will not be able to load the packages. So what I will do, I will just close this and I will open it from here again. Okay, now you can see that my entire libraries will get loaded, and at least I will be able to get some kind of suggestions. Hope so. Okay, and this is the problem that I usually face whenever I'm specifically working with this. Now here you can see all the libraries has got loaded. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and write os.environment, and here I'm going to go ahead and write LangSmith underscore API underscore key, and inside this we are going to basically write os.getEnv, and then we are just going to go ahead and load our langchain underscore API underscore key. Okay. Now this LangSmith API key will be playing a very important role, because once we set this in the environment, right, that basically means my entire LangChain application will understand where we need to probably go ahead and track. Based on this API key, it is going to go ahead and use some specific project and start tracking things. Okay. So this is really important for you all to understand. Okay. Other than this, we also need to go ahead and set up two more important things, right, from this, right? I will go ahead and set up os.environ. One variable I'll create over here, and os.environment. One more variable we'll create over here. Now, what is the variable? I will just let you know. And for that, we need to just go ahead and set up, see the documentation. So here I will go ahead and write LangSmith API key env. Okay. So here you can see get started with LangSmith. Once you probably just go ahead and see for the observability, right? So observability, evaluation, prompt engineering, there's so many different things that you can basically do over here, right? So get started by adding tracing to your application. So if you want to go ahead and understand how to go ahead and add tracing, so you have to go ahead and set up these three keys, right? One is LangSmith underscore tracing is equal to true. Then LangSmith API key, which we have already set it up. So here what I will do, I will just go ahead and copy this, open my project. Here I'll just go ahead and write is equal to true. Okay. And remember, this true is not a Boolean variable, right? This is not a Boolean variable. It is like a string variable. So here I will just go ahead and write something like true. Sorry. I will just go ahead and write it as true. Okay. Perfect. Now, one more thing after this, what we really need to do is about our project. I think there is also one more key where we need to set up the project. So let's see this. I will just go ahead and see some examples over here. LangSmith tracing is there. To create an API, head to the LangSmith setting, create an API key. Okay, it is just set this three keys. There is also one more field which is called as project, and I will also talk about that. Why we use project key also, right? That we'll just try to understand in some time. So right now, what I will actually do is that I will go back again to my code where I was doing the debugging. Okay, so I'll remove this. And then once I set the project, what will happen? So here it is saying me to import the OS. So let's quickly go ahead and import the OS. Okay. And this OS has got imported. Okay. Now, what we are basically going to do is that quickly I will go ahead and create a state graph, and this state graph will be a basic state graph with tool call. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and create a graph with tool call, and I hope we have discussed this in our previous session also. Okay, so first of all, what I am actually going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and make a tool. Okay, so I will go ahead and write from langchain underscore tools import tool. Okay, now inside this I will go ahead and use this tool decorator @tool. Okay, and here we are going to go ahead and define our function. Here we are going to go ahead and write add. A is nothing but float, let's say. B is nothing but float. Okay, C, and here I will just go ahead and say add two numbers. Okay, and here we are just going to go ahead and return A plus B. This is just a simple way because I'm focused more on explaining you about LangSmith, how the tracking basically happens. Okay, then I will just go ahead and create my tool node. So this is my tool underscore node. This will be nothing but I will use this tool node, and inside this I'm going to add this functionality which is called as add. Okay, which is called as add. So add is just like one tool that we are trying to integrate, and first of all I'm trying to make it as a tool node itself. Along with this, the second thing is that I should find out a way over here to even initialize my LLM model, right? So in order to initialize, if you see in my previous file, I just used this, right? So I will use the same code over here, right? From langchain.chat underscore model, import initiate model. And initiate chat model, I'm using Grok Llama 3 8,891,992 parameters. So if you just go ahead and execute this, this is how my LLM is, right? You can also use chat Grok, but here I'm using this initiate chat model for the better purpose. Okay. Now this is done, right? In my next step, what I'm actually going to do is that I will just quickly go ahead and bind my LLM model with this tool. So here I will go ahead and write LLM dot bind underscore tools. And here I'm going to go ahead and add this tool. Okay. And this will be nothing but my LLM underscore with underscore tools. Okay. So this is done. Okay. Now I will create a function. This will be my node function saying that, hey, let's call the LLM model. So LLM underscore model. And here I'm going to go ahead and give an input of state. This will be of state type, which I have not defined. So I will first of all go ahead and create my state graph. So here, let's go ahead and create the state graph. So class state, okay, class state, and this will be returning something called as type dict because I need to return all the values in the form of key value pairs. So here I'm going to go ahead and create my messages, and here we are going to use the annotated, okay, and then we will go ahead and write list, and this is my base message. Okay, base message, the reason why I'm adding this, because I need to keep a list of all the messages that I'm trying to append it over here, right? And this add underscore messages is my reducer. So what will happen at every conversation when we are passing from one node to the other node, all the information will start getting saved over here, and it will be available in this particular variable called as messages, which will be available in the entire state graph. So here we are going to create this state. Type dict is not defined. The reason is very simple, because we did not import type dict. Let's see. So type dict is installed. Okay, type dict. Okay, let's see. Are we returning this? Okay, it should be messages colon. Let me see this quickly. Messages colon annotated list of add message type dict is not defined. Now it is defined. I think I had to execute that once again. Okay, so now you have the state colon state. Okay, since we have to pass state as my parameter, and here we are going to just return the messages colon, because we have to return this entirely in the form of dictionary. Here I'm going to basically go ahead and write LLM with tools dot invoke, and here we are going to go ahead and give my state of messages. Okay, so done. So here we are specifically using this particular model and also using our tool specific model, so that we'll be able to invoke it and get the response and again save it back to the messages. So guys, now here you can see that I have added one tool, okay, and I have binded with my LLM, and I've also created one node definition. Okay, the reason of creating this is that because we are going to create this graph. Okay, and here you can see LLM with tool is there. So let me just make sure to remove this S so that our naming convention is almost right. Okay, so here you can see I have imported 3 different libraries. Okay, state graph, start and end, and there is a tool node and there is a tool condition. Okay, instead of this tool calling LLM, I have basically written call LLM model, right? So here what I will do, I will just go ahead and copy and paste this. Okay, so I will copy and paste it over here. Okay, quickly, and this same function we will try to use it over here. Okay, you know, my tool nodes is basically nothing but like this, right? It is giving in a list of tool functions. So here what I can do is that I can also go ahead and define my tool, and I can write add over here. Okay, so this is done, and here you can see that this is tools. So let me just make the spelling to tools, the same problem statement what we did in the last class. Here what we are doing is that we are calling this LLM model first of all as one of my node. So tool calling LLM is one of my node. Then I have a tool nodes. Okay, then from start to tool calling I have, then we are adding a conditional edges saying that, hey, tool calling LLM to tool condition, and here from tools to end, right? So if you probably go ahead and see the image, it looks something like this, right? And if you remember in my previous session already, we have covered this. So from start, there is a tool calling LLM. This tool have one functionality that is called as add, and we are ending it over here with respect to the functionality. And if you see, right, somewhere here in the chatbot only we discussed it, right? So here you can see this, right? Now, in order to invoke it, I will just go ahead and write response, and I will go back in my debugging.ipynb, and I will invoke it. Now see, I'll just go ahead and ask, what is the recent AI news? Okay, what is the recent AI news? Now, let me just open my LangSmith page. So quickly, this is my LangSmith. I will go back. Okay, so by default in the tracing project, I don't have anything. Okay, I don't have anything, right? So I will just go ahead and execute this now. So now once I execute this, now this is what we are executing. Graph.invoke messages what is the recent AI news. Okay, or I'll just go ahead and search for what is machine learning. Okay, now when I'm searching this, see what will happen. It will go to this tool calling LLM. This tool calling LLM will first of all see whether it is a tool call or not. Right now it is not a tool call, right? It will try to give the answer and it will give you the response, right? So once I execute this, now see the magic, what will happen in the LangSmith. Okay, so right now this is got executed. If you go ahead and see the response, you'll be able to see, okay, fine. I'm getting a AI message. Machine learning is a field of subfield and all this information. Now I'll go back to my LangSmith, right? And I'll just go ahead and reload this. See, once I reload it, right, the amazing thing is that there is something called as default. Okay, default. And here inside this particular default, here you can see that I am able to get one trace. Okay, and the trace is like once I click this, you will be able to see that in this trace, it shows like how the flow of execution has happened. I asked the input, what is machine learning? And here the human, it is considering it as a human input. And this is my entire AI message, right? It is probably giving it. And also in order to understand the entire flow, first of all, it went and hit this tool calling LLM node, right? You remember what is this tool calling LLM node, right? Inside this, there is a two call that is happening. One is chat grok call, right? So inside this chat grok, this LLM has tools like add, but it is not using it, right? And then here you can see with respect to the tool condition also, right? How things are happening, how everything is visible here. You can clearly see that, right? So with respect to this, the tool calling LLM is one node, and inside this there is a chat grok model, right? It also has a tools called as add, right? Now let me show you one more good example over here. So I will say, hey, what is, since it has some additional tools, okay? So I will say, hey, what is 2 plus 2? Okay, what is 2 plus 2? I'll just ask this question. Now you know that this is definitely make a tool call, okay? Or I'll just go ahead and ask this question. Please do a operation, or let's say I'll go ahead and write what is 5 plus 20. Okay, so this is my question. Okay, I'll just go ahead and execute this. Let's see, two responses I will get, and let's see what kind of response I will get. So here you can see what is 2 plus 2. So what is 2 plus 2? Tool is giving a 4 output, right? So here, now I'll click on this. Okay, I'll click on this. Now here you'll be able to see, first of all, tool calling LLMs is there. What is 2 plus 2? The AI output says a 2 plus 2, these all values, and here you can see in the YAML, in the JSON, so here you can see the output first is calling this particular tool called as add, right? And inside this tool condition also, you'll be able to see that what is 2 plus 2, first of all, add tool call, it got added, then it is going to this particular tool itself. The output of the first node is tool, right? Then when we went inside the tools over here, Now here you can see more information. The add functionality is basically giving you the output as 4. And internally on this particular tool, there was this operation that got executed where the input is this and your output is this, right? And finally, here you can see that with respect to the entire flow, your output is basically coming as 4 itself. Okay. So if I just go ahead and show you this, right? And let's say if I just go ahead and write this, what is 5 plus 5? 5 plus 20. Okay. This has got executed. Let's say I will go ahead and write response of, let's see the response. Here you can see 25 tool message content is basically coming as, right? So it is executing this entire thing and it is giving you the response, right? So this is the most amazing thing, right? Let me give you more good and proper answers. So here what I will do, from tools, I'll not go to the end. Instead, I'll send it to the tool calling LLM. So in order to send it to the tool calling LLM, I will just go ahead and give this. Right now, I'm not able to see the output properly because at the end of the day, I'm just getting a default message, right? Now, if I go ahead and ask, what is 5 plus 20? Let's ask this. And let's see the response now. Now, the response will be an AI message, okay? Before it was coming as a tools message because after the tool, it was going to the end, right? But now from the tool, it is again going back to the LLM itself. Now, if I just go ahead and reload it, and if I just close this, the first important transaction, like the first thing, like just recently when I asked what is 5 plus 20, that thing you'll be able to see it. Now see how line by line it has done. So if I just go ahead and click this, here you'll be able to understand the entire flow. First message that you got, what is 5 plus 2? Output, what is human input is what is 5 plus 2. AI is considering this as a parameter. It is calling the tool called as add. Then from this, it is calling a tool name called as add. The tool output is basically 25. And then finally the AI, since the tool is giving the output back to the LLM, the LLM will probably summarize and give you the output. So step by step, what has got executed, this is what it is showing, right? This is what it is basically showing. First, it went to the tool calling LLM, then it went to the LLM model, then tool condition is applied, then the tool call is done, then the add call is done, right? Then it again went back to my LLM. Then it saw that it did not had any more questions. Then it went to the end section. And finally, you can see the output over here. And this is what your output end is, right? So if you are able to understand that flow, right, it is very much simple in order to get like how the execution is specifically happening, right? And this we just seen with one specific example. Okay. Now you may be thinking, Krish, okay, fine. With this, at least we are able to understand like how the flow of the calls is actually happening, how every tool is basically getting called and all. Is there something we can probably go ahead and see the entire LangGraph, right? LangGraph Studio. Okay. With respect to the graph workflow, right? Can we do that? This was one of the question. Now here you can also see, guys, by default, we are getting this default, right? You can also go ahead and set up the project name. Now this will be one assignment to you, how to set up the project name. Okay. So if I go ahead and search for LangSmith setup project name. Okay. If I just go ahead and see this, log traces to a specific project. So here there will be one more parameter which we can specifically go ahead and use it. Somewhere here it will be coming up. Okay. As mentioned in the tracing project, LangSmith uses a concept of project to group. You can set up the LangSmith underscore project environment, right? So here what I will do, I will go ahead and set it up. Where I will set it up, I will just go ahead and write over here. Okay, code. And I will write os.environ. Okay. And here I can give my project name, LangSmith project name. And that project name will be what? Whatever is your test project. So I'll go ahead and write test project. Now let's see whether this will work or not. So quickly, let's execute this. Or either you have to restart the kernel. It may be something like this, but at the end of the day, both will work. Okay. So let's see. Again, I'll go back to my LangSmith, reload it. If it does not work, you have to restart the kernel. Okay. So right now it is not working. So you have to restart the kernel in order to make it work. Okay. So just restart the kernel and you'll be able to. I'll keep this one as the assignment. It is definitely going to work. Now the next step is that how do you go ahead and run this with the help of LangGraph Studio? because LangGraph Studio also you need to probably know how to probably go ahead and run this. Okay. So for our LangGraph Studio, I will be using a library. Now, the best amazing part is that monitoring with LangGraph Studio is very, very much simple. Okay. So here I'm going to use inmem. Okay. So I'm going to use this specific library and I will quickly go ahead and install this. So command prompt, I will go over here. I will say uv add -r requirement.txt. Okay. So once I do this installation, this is perfectly done. Okay. Once this installation is done, inside this debugging folder, I will go ahead and create one specific py file. So let's go ahead and see. I'll write, hey, this is my agent.py file. Okay. Now inside my agent.py file, what we are basically going to do is that, as usual, I'm going to go ahead and set up some of the keys and configuration, right? So quickly what I will do, I will go ahead and import all this specific stuff. Okay. I don't require langchain underscore OpenAI because I require the other one, right? So here I will say grok underscore API underscore key. Okay. Here also grok underscore API underscore key. Now this will be fun. You will just love it. Okay. Because we are going ahead one more step wherein we play with all these things, right? And we will also set up all these environment variables that I require. Okay. I will just go ahead and paste it over here. So agent.py. I will just go ahead and write it over here. And inside my debugging.ipynb, I will also go ahead and import this LangSmith project. Okay. So all this are simple environment that we are trying to set it up. Okay. Now, as you know, in the debugging, what all things we executed, we first of all initialized my LLM. So let's go ahead and initialize it. So here now in my .py file, I will just go ahead and initialize it. Okay. We are going to use this Llama 3 model. And then again, I will go back to my debugging file. I will create this particular classes. So let's go ahead and create this classes in my agent.py. Same state. There should be a state. Okay. I will close all this specific stuff. Okay. Quickly. I'll go back again to my this one. Okay. And then here you will be able to see that I have all the specific files that has got created. I'll copy this. Okay. So that I just go ahead and keep on adding all these things, or I can directly call this as a function. So here I will go ahead and write. So this will basically be my function. I will say definition make underscore tool underscore graph. Okay. And inside this, I'm going to go ahead and define this function. Okay. So here you can see this is my tool. This is my LLM tool. Same thing. Nothing so much different. Everything I'm defining it over here itself. And then once I go back to my debugging, I will just go ahead and create all these things. Okay, so let me just go ahead and define this where I'm going to create the builder, compile each and everything. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and define inside this function. Okay, and there will be a tab. Let's see, the tool condition has not got imported. Why? Because I've not imported it. Very simple. Calling LLM models, each and everything is there. So let's go ahead and import this tool condition. These 3 libraries that I require. Okay. I will quickly go ahead and do it. I'm telling you why I'm specifically using this. The same code inside that I've made a function which is called as make tool underscore graph. And this is what we are basically doing. We are compiling it. Okay. And then I'm going to just go ahead and return this particular graph. Okay. And at the end of the day, in order to execute this, I'll say agent dot make tool graph. I'm just calling this function. Okay. So this is my agent function. Let's say this is my, I'll go ahead and write tool underscore agent. Okay. Now my main aim is that you understood how this graph looks like. This graph looks something like this. And I want to show you this in LangGraph Studio, right? Now, how do I probably go ahead and execute this in the LangGraph Studio? Now you remember one of the library that we have imported in LangGraph CLI in memory. Okay. With the help of this, we will be able to run any graph in the LangGraph Studio from our local to the LangGraph cloud in the LangGraph cloud. So let's say if you are running a graph in your local, you can directly go ahead and monitor that in the LangSmith cloud itself. And that is what is my plan over here. So here what we'll do, we will create one more file, which will be my LangGraph.json file. Okay. Now inside this langgraph.json, remember you have to name it in this way, right? We will go ahead and set up some configuration. The first configuration is nothing but I will say dependencies. What all dependencies we have, right? So I will go ahead and write dependencies. Okay, so first key is nothing but dependencies. Inside this dependency, you have something like dot. Okay, then here you have something like graphs. Okay, so the next key that we need to set is with respect to the graph. Inside this graph, I will go ahead and give my tool agent name. So I'll say, hey, this is nothing but this is my tool underscore agent. Okay, this is the name of the agent. And the second parameter is the file name which I have created, right? So inside this, you know that I've created debugging. Inside the debugging folder, I've created the agent.py file, right? So from this current working directory, what is my file name? I will write /agent.py. And this is basically calling, inside this, we are calling this particular variable which is called as tool agent. So what it is going to do, this will basically call this particular function, and this function is going to load each and everything as we go ahead. Okay, so this is very simple, and this is what we are basically doing. So here I'm going to go ahead and write this. Then in the next parameter, we are also going to give what are dependencies we have. So one dependency we have is in my environment variable. So in my environment variable, where is the env file? In the root folder. So I'll say, hey, do double dash, go to the root folder, and there you call the env file, right? So this is the dependencies that we specifically have. So guys, now finally what we are basically going to do is that I will try to show you that how you can run this after setting up the configuration directly into the LangGraph Studio, which is in the cloud. Okay, so now I'll show you my face. So let's go ahead and go to my terminal. And first of all, what you need to do is that, see, whenever you open a command prompt, right? Remember, I open a command prompt over here, right? Now, you know that your configuration file is given inside this folder that is nothing but 3 debugging. So first of all, I will go inside this particular folder, 3 debugging, okay? And from here, I will run a command which is called as LangGraph dev, okay? So let me again hide my face. So here we are going to call a command called as LangGraph dev. And with the help of this particular command, and from where this command is basically coming up, because we have installed LangGraph CLI in memory. Okay. Now what this command is going to do is that it is going to pick up this configuration file. It is going to see, hey, where my agent is, right, on this specific file in this particular working directory, and it is going to call you the tool underscore agent variable, which is present inside over here, right? So that is how it is basically going to understand, and then it is going to run this in the LangGraph Studio. So once I go ahead and execute this, here you can see that some of the links are there. And automatically you should have logged in into your LangSmith, and here you will be able to see that my entire graph has got opened. This is nothing but this is LangGraph Studio. Here you got tool underscore agent name, which I gave in my configuration. Here are my nodes, right? Here you can drop a message and then just execute it. Like just go ahead and type hi, and once you click on submit, the execution will go ahead, you know. And if you remember, we can also put interruption, right? We can interrupt it. Let's say before this particular node, we want to put an interrupt, we can go ahead and put it. After this particular node, we can go ahead and put up this particular interrupt, right? And then we can continue our execution. This is the most important thing. Now, again, the other thing is that if I go back over here, there are some more URLs that you will be able to see. See, this is my API docs URL. So if I just go ahead and click this, now what is this URL all about? Here you can see all the different APIs. The entire documentation is basically created. See, you have /assistant search. So by default, you will be able to get this kind of information from these graphs also. There is also something like you can also convert this into MCP, right? So here with respect to the MCP/MCP post MCP, you can also convert your entire, see, this is the URL where your entire services are running, right? You can specifically go ahead and write this particular code and just go ahead and test the request based on you, right? You can put the keys, you can put all the information, and you'll be able to get the response, right? So this is the entire thing. Here you can also see the code snippet, you know, look at the curl command, each and everything. So I would suggest just go ahead and check out more about the documentation, because as we go ahead, you know, this level of debugging and monitoring is super beneficial. The best part is debugging with the help of this, right? And not only this, see, if I also go back to my tracing project, right? This was my project name, test project. Here also you'll be able to see different types of tracing that is happening. In the default, you can actually see different types of tracing that is happening, you know. everything you'll be able to see it, right? So two types of debugging I've actually showed you. Okay, one was with respect to LangSmith. Again, you want to go back over there, just go ahead and click on this deployments here in the LangGraph Studio. Just give the URL where you are specifically running, right? And I think it has got closed now. So here you'll be able to see that if I just go ahead and click this, again the URL will be able to come, right? And here is my entire URL that is available over here, right? So I hope you like this particular video. One assignment I really want to give you, go ahead and test it over here. Just go ahead and write the messages and see what all things will be able to see. This will be so graphically, like how the input is going, how it is calling the tool, each and everything gets highlighted in an amazing way. So I hope you like this particular video wherein we spoke about debug and monitoring with the help of LangSmith and LangGraph Studio. This is just like a crash course which we are specifically learning. So yes, this was it from my side. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Thank you and all. Take care. Bye-bye.